Hey, this is Christian Buckley, and I'm here with another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking with Hans. And Hans, how are you doing today?
Oh, fine. It was a long, long day. It's now late, very late in the evening, 5 hours behind you. And so I have to close with you today.
I'm 8 hours behind you. So
okay, so the different, yes, another way around.
So Hans, why don't you introduce yourself for folks that aren't familiar with you?
I'm a OneDrive MVP. No, that will come a little bit later. I'm an MVP with Office apps and servers. That's a new thing we have heard about today. So yes, I will be the first one in the next few days, whatever. There won't be about me in the OneDrive category. So I'm speaking a lot about OneDrive. We have met up in Stuttgart the first time, and then we saw also around the world. So you remember my card as a OneDrive MVP? I have still one.
I was going to have it, for me, have a little frame, and I was going to have it here, and I was thinking about doing kind of a joke around that. But so you mentioned Stuttgart. So for those that years ago, was it like 2011 or 2012 or something, where I came and spoke to the user group? Yes. One of the coolest venues, because it was in that automobile museum.
Yes.
In that room upstairs. And so you had all these different levels of, I don't know, what you could describe what that is.
Yeah, was in Stuttgart. We have the same in Bremen. There was a SharePoint Saturday North in Bremen, and that was the same level with more and more old cars. And that's very interesting to have such locations. It's not only location. In Warsaw, there was a SharePoint Saturday. I wasn't there. I think 14 days ago, there was in a football stadium. We have the football, the soccer things here in our world, in this world, and in Russia. And that's very interesting to have different location. It's not only the location you have, and it's out if you have the same location, whatever you have.
Look, and most SharePoint Saturday events are that at like community colleges and other business offices where they've got the facilities for that. But I mean, I still go back and look at some of the venues that were just a lot of fun. Like one of the first SharePoint Saturdays, in fact, it was it? Maybe it wasn't the first one. One of the first SharePoint Saturdays that I organized and hosted was SharePoint Saturday East Bay, and it went on, and we shifted it over to Silicon Valley the following year. Mm-hmm. But it was so this was August or September of 2010. Was over in, for those that are from the San Francisco Bay Area, know that it was over in San Ramon. So right by the Pacific Bell building, there's this Marriott hotel, and we did the event there and had like 350, 400 people attending. But our speaker dinner was out in Black Hawk at what used to be called, when growing up, was the Bering Automobile Museum. Mm-hmm. So hundreds of 3 or 4 floors of beautiful, rare and antique vehicles. And it's all black marble flooring. And we had like 10 tables set up of just our speakers. And we had 2 docents walking around talking to all of the speakers about the various cars. That was a really cool event, very special.
There are so many special events that's fantastic. And therefore, this year I will come also to US. I will go to New England to our friend Mark. Yep. And yes, that's a long story. 14 days because of so many events here in Europe. Yep. I have to go from Stuttgart, where I live. It's in southern Germany, and I have to go to the northern part, have a SharePoint user thing about OneDrive for business, whole day, 2.5 hours. Then I go to Hamburg to my company, then to Amsterdam, Boston over the weekend, have a SharePoint dinner. Perhaps I will go 2 days more, and then back to Germany, to Frankfurt to that's Cologne. In Cologne, they have also a 5 days event about technical stuff. And then I say, okay, it's enough. We have to do, there are some other events. You have to work a little bit sometimes.
I mean, in like October last year, I was on the road for 3.5 of 4 weeks. It's just gone out of the country the entire time. It's just crazy, and it's exhausting. And how much that you leave behind, other work that needs to be done, and then you play catch up. And I was home for a week and a half, and then I was right back out on the road over to Europe. But so let's, aside from the events and the travels going on, kind of what's your passion? Like, what are you talking about out to audiences today?
Normally OneDrive, and again, OneDrive. So not only, you have to say, not only the technical stuff, that's one time. The second one is tell me, hey, we have OneDrive here, rolled live and published, and nobody is using it. So that's the situation here in Germany. I think also in other countries, because people don't realize that we have more possibilities with OneDrive and can reduce our time. So sometimes it's deep technical, that's a deep technical part, but sometimes I spoke also for other people and tell them, hey, that's another story to collaborate, to co-authoring with all this stuff. Well, we and you using that.
Right. No, I mean, that's a great point. I think early on in the community that is now like the broader Office 365 or even the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, with all these various technologies. I mean, we both started in the SharePoint world, and we're involved with a bunch of these other workloads. But so many of those topics were technical. How do you deploy? How do you extend? How can you customize? Kind of those things. And we're now, what we saw, I mean, a few years back, but it's gotten more and more so, is where you have now the business users that are coming forward. And yeah. So it's just where things are within the adoption, life cycle, and where you have now this broad acceptance of the technology and people saying, hey, we're paying for this. We need to understand, how are other people getting the most out of this? How do we get more value of what we've already paid for? And so a lot of the conversations that I have at these conferences are those kinds of questions. It's like, well, I mean, we're not using any of these features. What can you tell me? Why do I need to know about this? What value is there around these other features?
And we have to collect some other people, the technical people. Yes, you need still an administrator, but you need some other people to deploy the information, what is several behind the things in the company. So speaking at Ignite last year was a great opportunity. I have companies here in Germany with 50,000 and more clients in her tenant, and rolling all these things, they have other problems. But I found that sometimes people say, yes, we have collect these people. We have collect the people around the globe. Several people that are on first release. No, we have to check it. It's a new word for the first release. But for the first thing that people can have all this stuff, yes, you say, oh, why we have to change the words again? But that's the issue the people have, and sometimes you found companies, yes, we have the people, and then they can go on and deploy other things.
I had a conversation, a couple of conversations in the last week, but one earlier today where we were talking about that problem, and it's a problem across most technology platforms and products, is that you have to do a certain level of education before you can even get to, hey, here's the best practices, or here's my guidance of how to go beyond that. And so you have to make sure that you have that baseline of understanding of what's possible out of the box that does this. And then let's talk about where it goes from there. You can't assume that people understand those basic capabilities. We actually, I mean, I know that you know this as well, but we had problems with Office 365 when it was initially launched, where a lot of people, vendors and companies that were buying said, well, everyone knows how to use all of the Microsoft Office products. And we've been in a SharePoint shop for a couple of years, so people know how to use SharePoint. Why do we need to train people on now how to use this all, in Office 365 and these different pieces together? And it's because there are differences, there are changes, there's features that are there that are in the cloud that are not on-prem, and vice versa. And there are now people are being introduced to products where they may not have used it on a day-to-day basis. And everyone knows how to upload a file into a link that you send them, but how do they really do more beyond that?
And the problem is that the deployment cycles are shorter. The old
the evergreen model now.
Yes.
Right.
And now you're on a weekly basis, and you have to change. You have to look, hey, this thing. We want to have Office for example, Office 2016, we want to freeze it up for the next 2 years. And then I say, yes, but thinking about you write the thing, you save all these documents in your OneDrive directly, and then you press the button and I want to share it with you or something else. I don't have to leave it and have to go to the website and say share it. So it's integrated now, the system, and therefore it's a bad thing if you say I want to free something out of the ecosystem of Office 365.
Well, there's an issue there. This was the other conversation I had. So one of the sponsors of a past research project that my company CollabTalk did was that around the hybrid SharePoint study. That was last year, as you recall. But came and said, we would love to participate in a research program that really looks at the success with numbers around it of this shift towards evergreen software release, and what are the true impacts and costs of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because training, keeping up with that from an admin perspective as well from an end user perspective, I mean, it's the volume of work, of effort is gone up. And I don't think that was something that was adequately talked to, certainly not measured and quantified. And so this company said, hey, we would like to co-sponsor that report. So we're actually looking at doing a study at the impact of evergreen technology, so of these cloud-based services like Office 365, and what the true costs of evergreen are. We're going to probably do that project this fall.
And the problem is sometimes the companies in Germany are always late. As I worked for Betiden in the US, people ask me, hey, what's about Germany? You have customers in all around Europe, but not in Germany. Germany's are always late. I say, if you have migrate all things in the cloud, you still have Germany. So we are still behind the scene. But now the people come, and the companies are always on this. But it's all from the users. Young people say, if you have the CTO role, if you have a thing, where do you want to go in 2 years or 3 years? And they say, oh, we do it the same situation. They say, okay, I quit the job. It's not a thing of money. They quit the job because the work-life balance and all this stuff of the young people, it's more important about the loyalty to a company.
Right. Well, so let me tell you, let's jump to something in the few minutes we have left. Is like, so what are the big questions? I mean, the top 3 questions you get around OneDrive for Business.
The top questions is it stable now? Yes, we know that was a long road. And the second one is we have several problems, still the problems with the old Groove client. And that's an old story. With this company, with 55,000 users, they make a mistake and they have a wrong deployment. That means 3,500 wrong old client. So that's the issue. People don't understand the old and the new one. You have to begin with the early days. And is this possible to have it in this year or next year with a hybrid or with a SharePoint server in 2019? That's the whole questions. That's the questions I have most.
So what are what's kind of new around OneDrive that people should be aware of that they might not be of? Because the one thing that I was really interested to hear more and understand the difference, because I'm a huge Office Lens user almost every day. And now you have this scan capability within the OneDrive for Business app. So talk about that. I mean, what are the differences?
OneDrive app is almost this little thing and has nothing to do with the integration into operating system. If you use it on Windows 10, that's the best thing. You have a version 1709 or later. Yes, in Germany, I have still some companies that use 1703 because they're still using it the 3 years life cycle. So that's a different, you have integrated in a system. And sometimes, that's a different on an iOS device or on an Android device, and therefore you have to look for. There is also available an app, but you have integrated in a system, then it's smooth, it's work like any charm in the old days.
Well, I mean, but just describe it. So folks that don't know, I mean, Office Lens, this scanning product that's been out there for a couple different years. I mean, my first experience, so I use it when out of pocket, I take pictures of receipts. I take pictures of signed contracts and save it to PDF, a multi-page PDF in my phone, and then send it off. It's replaced the need for like a scanner. But it's also the first time I ever used it was, I don't remember which conference it was, where somebody mentioned it. It might have been like a tech ed when it was launched years ago, where I was sitting in this 1,500 person theater, this giant audience way off to the side in the front. And so I was looking at this giant skewed screen, and I took a picture of it and kind of right sizes it, squares it off. So it made it, readable. And I just thought, this is fantastic to have this and save it to whatever your shared storage is, and OneDrive or Dropbox or Apple or whatever it is. You can hook all of those things up there depending on what you need to do, or email it straight out. So when I heard that there was now this scan capability within the OneDrive app, I thought, well, what are they adding into this? And what
different? Yes. The difference was, in the past, that is OneDrive personal. That's your personal thing. And now for many companies, and that was what user-wise you have to vote, and they have heard your votes. And therefore now you have the possibility, it will roll out till Ignite. So they want to have it in OneDrive for Business. So then many people says, yes, I have some immobiles, I have some pictures to make for my business. And that's a bad thing to mix personal and business things. So now you can decide OneDrive for Business or OneDrive Personal.
Well, very cool. Well, I mean, that's a big deal too, because it's, I have, set up, and I'm using both of those things in very specific ways, certainly with all the client projects, and be able to scan those things directly into a folder, receipts, paperwork, things into the project folder, rather than the generic, personal OneDrive folder, and then have to go do things at the back end. I mean, it certainly simplifies, streamlines some of that activity. Well, Hans, just in general, like, how can people find out more about you? Like, where are you writing, blogging? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, I still blog in OneDrive, in a WordPress blog. That's hansbrender.com. And I blog in 2 languages. That means, yes, in German and also in English. And you will see me at Ignite. So I will come over personal. We will see it. I will speak there second time. That's a great opportunity for me. And yes, you will find my address around the globe. You have to look and search with your search engine, whatever you want.
Just type in Mr. OneDrive, and then your picture comes up. Right? Yes.
That's perfect, yes.
Well, Hans, thanks a lot for your time today. It's always great talking to you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.